Have you ever heard a strange noise in your house at night? A little scratch, a faint knock, a sound you just can't quite place? For most of us, it's nothing the house settling, the wind, maybe a mouse. But for the Alvarez family in Fresno, California, those sounds were the prelude to a real-life nightmare. And it's a nightmare that, to this day, has no explanation. Our story begins in 2009. The Alvarez family, a mother, a father, and their 2 young children, were living a quiet, ordinary life, but then the noises started. It began subtly, scratching sounds coming from inside the walls. They tried to ignore it, telling themselves it was probably just pests. But the sounds grew louder, more insistent. The scratching turned into knocking, a rhythmic, deliberate pounding that seemed to follow them from room to room. It was as if something was trapped inside their walls, and it desperately wanted to get out. The family grew terrified. They couldn't sleep. The children were having nightmares. The feeling of being watched, of not being alone in their own home, became overwhelming. Finally, one evening, the terror reached a breaking point. The knocking became so violent, so aggressive, that Mr. Alvarez, in a fit of desperation and fear, called 911. What the dispatcher heard on that call would send a chill down the spine of even the most seasoned emergency operator. Over the line, the dispatcher could clearly hear the chaos unfolding in the Alvarez home. Mr. Alvarez was shouting, pleading for help. You could hear the terrified cries of his children in the background. Then Mr. Alvarez yelled at whatever was in the walls, screaming at it to stop. And in the silence that followed his shout, the dispatcher heard it. A single, distinct pound from inside the wall, as if something was answering back. But that wasn't the most disturbing part. Just before the line went dead, a child's voice could be heard, crying out a single, chilling word, "Mommy." Police were dispatched immediately, sirens wailing through the quiet Fresno neighborhood. When they arrived at the Alvarez house, they found a scene that was both ordinary and deeply unsettling. The lights were all on, casting a warm glow from the windows. Inside, the dinner table was set. Plates of food were still warm, steam gently rising from them, as if the family had just sat down to eat moments before. The family car was parked in the driveway. Everything looked completely normal, except for 2 horrifying details. First, the family was gone, vanished. There was no sign of them anywhere. No note, no indication of where they might have gone. They had simply disappeared. Second, and perhaps more terrifying, were the walls. In several rooms, large sections of drywall had been ripped open, torn apart not from the outside, but from the inside. It looked as if something had violently clawed and punched its way out from within the very structure of the house. Splinters of wood and chunks of plaster littered the floor. As the officers cautiously made their way through the silent, eerie home, they made one final, blood-curdling discovery. High up on a wall in the master bedroom, near the ceiling, was a single bloody handprint. But it wasn't an ordinary handprint. The palm was pressed flat against the wall, but the fingers were bent backward at an impossible, unnatural angle, as if the hand belonged to something not quite human. Forensic analysis confirmed the blood was human, but it didn't match any known records, and investigators couldn't explain the grotesque positioning of the fingers. The investigation was extensive. Police searched the house, the yard, the entire neighborhood. They questioned friends, family, and co-workers, but they found nothing. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry. The doors and windows were all locked from the inside. It was as if the Alvarez family had been erased from existence from within their own home. They were never seen or heard from again. The case went cold, becoming one of Fresno's most chilling local legends. The house remained empty for years, a dark monument to the family that vanished. But the story doesn't quite end there. Neighbors, the few who have remained in the area over the years, have reported strange occurrences coming from the abandoned Alvarez home. On quiet nights, they say you can still hear sounds, faint scratching noises coming from inside the walls. So what happened to the Alvarez family? Were they victims of a home invasion so bizarre it left no trace? Did they stage their own disappearance in some elaborate, incomprehensible way? Or did something truly ancient and malevolent, something that lived within the walls of their home, finally break free? We may never know. The case remains unsolved, a terrifying question mark in the annals of true crime. It makes you think, doesn't it? The next time you hear a strange noise in your home, what will you think it is? Would you be brave enough to spend a night in the Alvarez house? Let me know what you think happened down in the comments. I read every single one. Thanks for watching. And if you're fascinated by mysteries like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the unknown. Stay safe and maybe sleep with a light on tonight.